Okay, hello guys, hi and welcome back to my channel. This is my second video today. Hooray, I am staying on track. My name is Elizaveta Sullivan. I am a psychologist, gestalt therapist, hypnotherapist, and a life spiritual coach. Anyway, today I wanted to raise a very interesting topic. I wanted to talk about fears. I had a request, I think on my Instagram, from one of the girls who asked me to talk about how to work with fears. But before we do that, we have to establish what it is, right? What fear actually is. So fear is an opposite side, right? Like the dark side of the moon. It's the dark side of the wishes. So it's the opposite thing, it's an opposite emotion, about opposite feeling of what we want, of our actual desires. First, before we, continue going deeper into that, I want to ask you, how many fears do you think you have? Because I know I used to have thousands, hundreds. There are so many fears living in our subconscious mind. But the interesting thing is that we are actually only born with only two fears: a fear of falling and a fear of loud noises. So now think, how many actual fears have you inhabited throughout your life, right? That we get from our parents or from our ancestors, from society, from friends, from, media, from all these other sources of information. And then we start inhabiting it, and then we start having these fears, which is not good at all. Like right now, an interesting thing is most of us are living in this beta state, right? This constant anxiety, this constant fear of something that's about to manifest, something bad happening. A fear of being broke, a fear of being lonely, a fear of dying alone, a fear of flying. All this stuff that we inhabit through our life. So originally, fear is a good mechanism that kind of helps us stay alive and stay well. But unfortunately, we really disorient it, right? And just transform it into this unnecessary pressure. So now let me ask you to do a quick evaluation. I want you to write down, or like to think about, or write down 3 things that you don't have in your life right now and you don't want to ever have. Pause this video, and when you do that, continue this video. Okay, great. You wrote it down. So now let me tell you, these are 3 things that your subconscious mind is manifesting at all times the most. Pretty wild, right? I remember when I did that exercise, my 3 things probably might have been yours as well. Usually people say like death or like a disease, and for some reason a very particular disease like cancer, like you can just die out of, I don't know, something else, basically a cough. Or people say like a loss of a close person or stuff like that. So these are main fears that are constantly manifesting these experiences in our lives. Because what fear is, it creates this tension in our subconscious mind that does not let us live fully, right? Imagine like you would constantly be walking down the road, you constantly be living with a pain in your arm, right? This constant scratch. It would be scratching itself, how annoying it would be, right? So this is basically what our fears do in our mind. It's this anxiety of fearing something in the future when it's not even happening. You fear it, so your mind is constantly thinking it is happening at all times, and to release this tension, to remove this tension, it has to actually live through that experience, because you're not going to be afraid of, heights if you jump from the airplane. So this is an interesting thing, right? This is why people say always move towards your fears, go through your fears, because it actually requires so much energy of our subconscious mind, of our mind, constantly at all times. Mind you, our mind does not have a sense of time. So everything that we're thinking, everything that we're experiencing, it's doing at all times, every moment, every single moment. It does not have a concept of, this is going to be later, this is from past, and so on and so forth. That's why past traumas and past experiences, past dramas or past tension that has not been worked through is affecting us in our everyday life right this moment. So with fears, all the teachers, a lot of different teachers, a lot of different methodologies have tons of tools of how to work with it. But one thing that I can say for sure is that you have to work through them. Because if you don't, these fears that you have are manifesting it happening in the reality, because your mind has to live through that. Your mind has to release from this constant cloud of negative energy. It's impossible to live like that. I wouldn't want to live with a scratch on my arm. So coming back to this exercise that I asked you to do, which is writing down 3 things and kind of thinking 3 things that you don't want in your life and don't have in your life. When I first did that exercise, that was a game changer for me, because I realized what I'm actually doing on the unconscious level. So the easiest tool, the easiest way for me to not manifest these things in reality is just realizing, is just being mindful enough, knowing that these things that I fear, I'm actually manifesting. So just basically letting it go. If you can't do that, if you can't do it that simply, there are different techniques of working with your fears, right? Okay, so one of the techniques that I wanted to share you on how to work with fears, and mind you, there are many different ones. I know myself a lot of different ones, but I'm going to share one of them with you today. I work very closely with fears because, again, fear is the opposite side of our wish. So, for example, if our wish is to be a coach full-time, right, take that career, but then you understand that your fear is fear of becoming homeless or of being broke. So what you do then is you actually start talking to yourself of your plans A, B, C, D, E, F, G, of what would happen if that happens, right? If that fear manifests itself. If that happens, if, let's say, you change your career and you don't have any money, is this the end of the world? Is this the end of the day? What are the steps that you would possibly be able to take to not be broke? File for unemployment, take another side job, go live with your parents, start doing weekend classes, and so on and so forth. So you basically are writing down, because usually this fear is kind of this big thing that is like the end of the world, the end of the day, right? I'm fearing of being broke, I fear of being homeless. But then if that happens, do you really believe that you're gonna let yourself become homeless, right? Do you actually believe that? Are there any other options? If that happens, if you don't have any money for next month, would you have any other options to continue? So once you start doing that with each fear, you kind of understand that there is nothing to fear, right? There is nothing actually to fear, because there are always ways out of it. There are always ways around it. There are always ways of how you can, continue your life and actually elevate it. So that's when the fear starts going smaller, and this anxiety about this thing happening comes smaller, and just poof, it walks away. So this is the same with like fear of public speaking or like small fears. Usually when I work closely with wishes and wants, we write down fears for each thing. And you will be surprised how many fears you actually have, because if you right now think about the thing that you want very much, and then I ask you to write down fears about it, or fears of what would be if that happens, you're gonna have so many of them. Like, for example, if your wish is to get married to Brad Pitt, right? I think he's single now, so why not? Let's take that for example. So you're sitting there and you think that your wish is to get married to Brad Pitt. And now try to write down all the fears that are entangled to this wish. What would happen if that actually comes true, right? Oh, well, I'm not ready. I'm not good looking enough. I fear that I'm not good enough for him. I fear like he's gonna start cheating on me. I fear that he's gonna leave me. I fear that I won't be able to have a conversation with him. I fear that I won't be good enough in bed. I fear that, I will stop talking to all of my friends because now I'm married to Brad Pitt. And so on and so forth. You see how many fears are actually living in our subconscious mind. Because if we didn't have fears, if something that we want does not have fears or negative and limiting beliefs attached to it, it happens like that. It manifests itself like that. We are the only ones who are actually stopping that from happening. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. If you want to work with fears, do that exercise that I told you. Just write down what if that happens, right? What if So what? Okay, I fear that I won't have enough money next month. Is this the end of the world? Would I be able to figure it out from then on? And then this monster of the unknown, this fear, it would just, vanish away, because you're like, oh, okay, I will still know what to do. I will still be able to figure it out. But I don't want that to happen, so I'm gonna stop fearing that and actually transfer that energy into focusing on what I do want. Well, I hope you guys like this video. I hope you guys understand what I was talking about here. If not, please leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you wrote down on that exercise with 3 things that you don't want in your life the most. And I will see you next week. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, this one, and subscribe to my Instagram right there. And I love you all. Thank you so much for staying with me. Have a good day. Bye-bye.